Welcome to the captivating realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our exciting new stories. Enjoy the journey.
The salty spray of the alien ocean stung Captain Jack Steele's eyes as he stood on the rocky shore, surveying the strange new world before him. His sleek starship, the ISS Odyssey, perched on a nearby cliff, gleamed in the light of the twin suns. They had arrived on this uncharted planet seeking new allies in their ongoing war against the ruthless Chrono Empire, but instead of fearsome warriors, they discovered a primitive village inhabited solely by humanoid females. Well, isn't this a surprise? Jack muttered, running a hand through his close-cropped blonde hair. Command is going to hate this. His second-in-command, Sergeant Riker, a burly Marine, grunted in agreement. A bunch of dames in grass skirts isn't exactly what I expected. Yeah, Cap, what are we supposed to do now? Jack sighed and squinted against the glare as he noticed a group of alien women approaching from the village. They were tall and slender, with shimmering blue skin and long flowing hair in shades of purple and green. Most wore only simple woven garments that left little to the imagination. I guess we'd better go say hello, Jack said, straightening his uniform. Remember, we're representatives of Earth. Let's keep it professional. Sure, Riker snorted, but it's not every day a guy gets to chat with a village full of space beauties. Jack shot him a warning look as the group of women drew closer, led by one wearing an elaborate feathered headdress and a beaded necklace. She stopped a few paces away, tilting her head curiously as she studied the human men. I am Taa, High Priestess of the Urella tribe, she said in accented but understandable English. What brings you sky travelers to our humble shore? Jack stepped forward and bowed slightly. Captain Jack Steele of the Earthship Odyssey. We come in peace, seeking friendship between our peoples. Taa's violet eyes sparkled with amusement. Friendship, you say? We Urella have a special ritual for welcoming honored guests. She turned to her companions. Sisters, let us greet them properly. To the humans' astonishment, the females all lifted their skirts, fully exposing their lower halves. Jack's jaw dropped as he took in the sight of a dozen blue buttocks and glistening slits on display. Beside him, Riker made a strangled choking sound. Taa grinned impishly at their stunned expressions. Does this gesture of openness please you, Captain? Among the Urella, showing one's nethers is a sign of utmost trust and hospitality. Jack quickly composed himself, though he could feel his face burning. It's a bit different from what we're used to, but we appreciate the warm welcome. Maybe we could discuss matters further in a more clothed setting. The priestess laughed, a musical sound, as she and the other females lowered their skirts. But of course. Come, let me show you our village. We have much to talk about. As Jack walked beside her, Riker leaned in and muttered. Lift their dresses. Holy hell. I think I'm going to like this planet. Jack shook his head. First contact with a new species was always delicate, but negotiating with a bunch of half-naked alien beauties was shaping up to be his greatest challenge yet. He could only hope he and his men could maintain their professionalism and sanity. It was going to be a wild ride. As Taa led them into the heart of the village, Jack marveled at the strange yet beautiful architecture surrounding them. The Urella dwellings were organic in shape, seemingly growing out of the lush vegetation, with curved walls woven from living vines and roofs adorned with vibrant flowers. It felt like stepping into a psychedelic wonderland. Everywhere he looked, more of the alluring blue-skinned women went about their daily tasks, tending to gardens filled with alien produce, weaving intricate tapestries, or practicing dance moves that made Jack's pulse quicken. To his dismay, they all seemed to enjoy greeting the human visitors with that same scandalous skirt-lifting ritual. God damn, it's like a sci-fi nerd's fantasy come to life, Riker muttered under his breath as yet another giggling Urella flashed her azure behind at them. Think I could get transferred here permanently? Keep it in your pants, Sergeant, Jack growled. We're on a diplomatic mission, not a frat party. Although he found it increasingly difficult to ignore the stirrings in his own trousers. There was something about these women, an intoxicating sensuality that threatened to overwhelm his better judgment. Taa glanced back at him with a knowing smirk, as if sensing his inner turmoil. You seem troubled, Captain. Does our way of life not appeal to you? Jack cleared his throat awkwardly. It's very appealing, believe me. It's just a lot to take in at once. Our cultures may be different, but are we not all the same in what truly matters? A desire for connection, joy, and the pleasures of the flesh. She ran a finger suggestively down his chest. He captured her hand, trying to ignore the electric tingle her touch ignited. Look, your hotness, your holiness, I'm flattered. But we need to focus on the bigger picture, the threat of the Chronos. Taa waved dismissively. Oh, always so serious, you humans. You must learn to live in the moment. She led them into the largest structure in the village, a soaring cathedral of twisted branches and luminous petals. Inside, plush cushions were scattered about the mossy floor, and the air was thick with the heady scent of alien incense. Dozens more Urella females reclined. This is a holy temple of some kind. More like an interstellar bordello, Jack thought. Taa gestured for them to sit as she draped herself across a pile of cushions, her skirt riding up to reveal a tantalizing expanse of cobalt thigh. Welcome to the Temple of Saba. The sacred space of our goddess of love. Here we explore the heights of pleasure and the depths of passion in all their myriad forms. Perhaps you would care for a demonstration. Riker started choking again, and even Jack felt his mouth go dry. I don't think that will be necessary, he managed. We wouldn't want to offend your goddess with our bumbling human ways. Nonsense. Saba delights in all acts of love, no matter how clumsy. Taa beckoned to a group of priestesses. Sisters, let us show these men how the Urella worship. What followed was a mind-blowing spectacle of sensual acrobatics that left Jack feeling aroused, terrified, and questioning his entire belief system. He averted his eyes from the writhing bodies, desperately seeking something, anything, else to focus on. His gaze landed on an enormous crystalline statue in the center of the temple, depicting a stunningly beautiful Urella female with an equally large phallus jutting proudly from between her legs. Jack blinked, wondering if the incense was making him hallucinate. Nope, that was definitely a giant alien phallic goddess. Taa noticed his stare and grinned. Ah, you've noticed the avatar of Saba. Impressive, isn't she? Legends say that one day, the goddess herself will take on flesh to lead us into a new age of pleasure and enlightenment. Jack's brain short-circuited as he tried to imagine the anatomical logistics involved. He thought human women were complicated. He needed to get out of there before this planet of insatiable desire made him lose his mind. He stood up abruptly, nearly tripping over a couple of enthusiastically copulating priestesses. This has been very educational, but I just remembered we have some urgent ship repairs to attend to, right, Sergeant? Riker, who had been openly ogling the orgy with a blissed-out expression, blinked dazedly. Huh. Oh, right. Those engines aren't going to recalibrate themselves. Taa pouted fetchingly as she also rose. Must you leave so soon? We have only begun to explore the depths of interspecies communion. I'm sure we'll have plenty of chances to commune later, Jack said, edging towards the door. For now, duty calls, but we look forward to further cultural exchange. As do I, Captain. I sense great potential in you. Her eyes gleamed with unnerving intensity. Potential to embrace your primal nature, to cast off the shackles of your inhibitions. The Urella can guide you to heights of ecstasy you've never dreamed possible. Jack suppressed a shudder, both of fear and forbidden excitement. He had a feeling that cultural exchange with these insatiable space nymphs was going to be the death of him, but what a way to go. As he hurriedly retreated back to the Odyssey with Riker in tow, Jack tried to collect his racing thoughts. They still needed to find a way to secure the Urella's aid against the Chronos. But if he had to sit through one more soft-core alien spectacle, his patience was likely to snap. He could only hope that beneath all the sexual antics, TAA and her people had more to offer than just physical allure. As the ship's airlock sealed behind them with a reassuring clang, Jack leaned against the wall and let out a shaky breath. Jesus Murphy, I never thought I'd be so glad to leave a planet full of hot alien chicks. Riker just grinned stupidly. I don't know, Cap. I could stand to. The species reproduces through a form of parthenogenesis, and the statue in the temple isn't merely symbolic. They all possess fully functional male and female reproductive organs. Jack was astonished by the implications. It made perfect sense why they were so fixated on sex, they could literally engage with themselves. Fascinating, he said dryly. But how does this help us persuade them to join our cause? Ah, that's where it becomes intriguing, Quark replied, shifting topics. The Oral's unique physiology gives them enhanced empathic abilities. They can sense emotions and even project them to some extent, primarily expressing these emotions through sexual interactions. So, they're basically a bunch of overly sexualized space hippies with psychic powers, Jack commented, rubbing his temples. Fantastic. Don't you understand, Captain? Their entire society is centered on achieving emotional and physical harmony. War, conflict, or any negativity is completely against their worldview. If we want their support, we must appeal to their more primal instincts. Jack looked at him in disbelief. Are you seriously suggesting that I need to seduce the blue space women to gain their allegiance? Quark shrugged. The technical term is sexual diplomacy. It's not unheard of in first contact scenarios. Sexual diplomacy? Jack echoed, shaking his head. I joined Starfleet to explore the universe. Not to star in an adult film. Just then, the comm panel on his desk beeped insistently. Bridge to Captain Steele, said his helmsman, Lieutenant Zach Brannigan. We have an incoming transmission from the planet's surface. It's High Priestess Tila, and she's requesting to come aboard. Jack's stomach did a flip at the thought of the alluring alien. He took a deep breath to steady himself. Permission granted. Have her escorted to the main conference room, and tell her to keep her skirt down this time. He turned back to Quark, who was trying unsuccessfully to suppress a smirk. Not a word of this to anyone, understood? The last thing I need is for the crew to think their captain is some kind of intergalactic gigolo. My lips are sealed, sir, Quark assured him, mimicking a zipping motion. But for what it's worth, I believe you are uniquely suited for this assignment. Godspeed, Captain. With that, the scientist hurried away, leaving Jack to wrestle with a mix of excitement and anxiety. He had confronted bloodthirsty Congo berserkers, navigated black holes, and even survived his ex-wife's cooking, but the thought of dealing with the Oral's sensual nature made him feel like a rookie all over again. Straightening his shoulders, he headed toward the conference room, determined to confront this challenge directly. He was Captain Jack Steele, after all. He would negotiate a peace treaty with these blue beauties if it was the last thing he did. The galaxy depended on him to stay composed, regardless of how much his other instincts might stir. As the conference room doors slid open, revealing Tila's alluring figure and inviting smile, Jack silently prayed to any gods who might be listening. He sensed he would need all the divine assistance available to navigate this mission while keeping his sanity, and his pants, intact. Captain Steele, thank you for having me, Tila purred as he entered, her violet eyes glowing with barely restrained desire. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Jack felt the double entendre as his uniform collar suddenly felt tighter. Not at all, High Priestess. I'm always pleased to welcome visitors from the planet's surface. He gestured for her to take a seat at the sleek chrome table, trying not to stare at how her skirt rode up when she crossed her legs. Please, call me Tila, she said, leaning forward to give him a generous view of her cleavage. I have a feeling we are going to become very close friends. Jack swallowed hard, his mind racing with various inappropriate fantasies involving Tila, the conference table, and a tub of oral body butter. Focus, Steele. The mission, he reminded himself. Clearing his throat, he adopted a professional tone. I'm certainly open to fostering cooperation between our peoples. What can I do for you, Tila? She licked her lips, a gesture that sent a jolt of electricity through Jack. I was hoping we could discuss the terms of our alliance in a more private setting, perhaps your quarters. Alarm bells rang in Jack's mind. Being alone with this alluring woman could lead to trouble, and he wasn't sure he could leave with his virtue intact. Yet, he couldn't afford to offend her when so much was at stake. I appreciate your offer, he replied carefully, but I wouldn't feel right taking advantage of your hospitality. As captain, I must maintain a certain level of decorum. Tila pouted, her full blue lips shimmering enticingly. But captain, among my people, physical intimacy is the highest form of diplomacy. To refuse my advances would mean rejecting our friendship. Jack's determination faltered as he pictured those lips near his communicator. Damn it, why did she have to be so tempting? Just when he was about to abandon caution in his pants, the ship's comm system crackled to life. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Congo warships detected on long-range sensors. Jack jumped to his feet, feeling both relieved and frustrated by the interruption. Duty calls. We'll have to continue this discussion later. Tila stood as well, her expression shifting from seductive to worried. The Congo are here. But why? If I had to guess, they're after your planet's dilithium reserves, Jack stated grimly. They've been raiding every mining colony in the sector. Dilithium? What is this dilithium you speak of? Jack blinked, momentarily caught off guard. You know, the crystalline mineral that powers warp drives. The substance that's rarer than a Vulcan smile. Don't tell me you've never heard of it. Tila shook her head. I'm afraid not, Captain. Our civilization has little need for such things. We are a people of simple pleasures. Simple pleasures, right, Jack muttered, trying to suppress thoughts of the uncomplicated things he had seen in the Temple of Saiba. Well, trust me, the Congo are definitely after your world's resources, and they won't hesitate to enslave or destroy your people to get them. Tila's eyes widened in horror. Enslave us? Destroy us? But we are a peaceful people. We have no weapons, no armies. How can we defend ourselves against such monsters? Jack took her shoulders, looking deep into her frightened eyes. That's why we're here, Tila. The Odyssey is one of the most advanced ships in the galaxy. We will protect you and your people, I swear it. She searched his face, her expression softening with trust and gratitude. Thank you, Captain. From the moment I saw you, I knew you were a man of honor and bravery, a true hero. Her words filled Jack with pride and something more. He desperately wanted to live up to her image of him. He longed to sweep her into his arms and show her just how heroic he could be. The ship shook as the first volley of Congo photon torpedoes slammed into the Odyssey's shields. The red alert klaxons blared even louder, snapping Jack back to reality. He couldn't afford to be distracted, not now. The lives of his crew and the entire oral race depended on him. Giving Tila's shoulders one last reassuring squeeze, he turned and dashed for the door. Get to the escape pods. If the worst happens, you'll be your people's last hope. I'll hold off the Congo for as long as I can. Wait. She called after him. Let me fight alongside you. I can help. Jack paused, looking back at her with a mix of admiration and frustration. Damn it, woman. I'm trying to keep you safe. The best thing you can do is stay out of harm's way. Tila raised her chin defiantly, and at that moment, Jack glimpsed the warrior queen she might have been in another life. I am the high priestess of the Oral. My people need me now more than ever. I won't hide in an escape pod while you risk your life for us. Jack hesitated, torn between his duty as captain and his growing feelings for this formidable woman, but another jarring impact made the decision for him. Fine, but stay behind me, and for God's sake, keep your clothes on. Together, They raced toward the bridge, prepared to confront the Congo threat directly. Jack's heart raced with a heavy blend of adrenaline, fear, and something dangerously akin to love. Jack Steele had a persistent feeling that this would be the fight of his life, and not just in a physical sense. The bridge of the Odyssey was a whirlwind of activity, crew members rushing to their stations as the red alert sirens blared like a wailing banshee. Shouts filled the air with status reports and damage assessments, but the crew moved with a practiced precision, the result of countless drills. On the view screen, a fleet of ominous chrono warships loomed, their jagged silhouettes stark against the vastness of space, armed to the teeth. Report. Jack barked, his voice cutting through the chaos as he settled into the captain's chair. Lieutenant Brannigan's fingers raced over the helm controls. His complexion pale yet determined. Shields at 60%, Captain. They're hitting us with everything they have. Return fire. Jack ordered, heart pounding in rhythm with the blaring alarms. Target their weapons and engines. The Odyssey jolted as a barrage of phaser beams shot forth, striking the enemy ships. Explosions erupted across the chrono vessels, but they pressed on, relentless, their weapons pounding against the weakening shields. Ta, the enigmatic Urella, gripped the back of Jack's chair, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination as she took in the brutal display of space warfare. I've never witnessed anything like this, she gasped, her voice barely audible over the clamor. The power, the destruction. Welcome to the glamorous world of interstellar warfare, Jack replied grimly, his eyes glued to the view screen. It's not all charming aliens and mind-blowing encounters out here. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently as a massive explosion rocked the bridge. Consoles erupted in showers of sparks, sending crew members tumbling from their seats. Jack clung to the armrests, gritting his teeth against the bone-jarring impact. Hull breach on decks 12 through 15. Lieutenant Commander Ramirez shouted from the tactical station, his voice strained. Emergency force fields are holding, but we can't withstand much more of this. Jack's mind raced, desperately seeking a solution. The Odyssey was a formidable ship, but even she couldn't endure the full might of a chrono battle fleet. They needed an edge, something to shift the tide. His gaze fell on Ta, who was picking herself up off the floor, her dress torn and hair disheveled. Despite the chaos, Jack couldn't help but admire her strength and elegance in such a dire moment. Ta. He called over the turmoil, urgency lacing his tone. You mentioned your people have empathic abilities, right? That you can sense and project emotions? She nodded, her brow furrowed in confusion. Yes, but I don't see how that helps us now. Jack's eyes sparkled with a desperate, reckless hope. I need you to focus on the Congos. Project every ounce of love, compassion, and peace you can muster. Make them feel the joy and harmony of the Urella way of life. Ta stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. You want me to love the Congos? Are you insane? Quite possibly, Jack admitted, a smirk tugging at his lips despite the gravity of the situation. But right now, it's our only chance. If we can disrupt their aggression, even for a moment, it might give us the opening we need. The deck shook again, more violently this time. Ta stumbled, and Jack caught her, pulling her close. Their eyes locked in a moment of shared intensity. Please, he whispered, his lips brushing against her ear. I believe in you. Ta. You're the strongest, most incredible woman I've ever met. She shivered at his words, her resolve wavering. I'll try for you, Jack. Closing her eyes, Ta took a deep breath, reaching out with her mind across the vastness of space. She envisioned the Congos, their reptilian faces twisted with rage, and then let the love flow. She imagined her people, the simple joys of their lives, the beauty of her planet, the lush forests, and crystal-clear waters. The memory of ecstasy in the temple, the bliss of CBA's embrace, and most importantly, the image of Jack, his courage, integrity, and undeniable charm, filled her thoughts. A wave of pure affection surged from Ta's mind. washing over the Congo fleet like a tsunami of positivity. For a moment, nothing happened, and then, "Captain, look!" Brannigan exclaimed, pointing at the view screen. "The Congos! They're breaking formation." Jack's heart raced as he watched in disbelief. The enemy ships began to drift aimlessly, their weapons falling silent. On the screen, the Congo commander appeared, his lizard-like features slack with confusion. What is happening?" The Congo slurred, his voice thick and clumsy. "I feel strange, like I want to hug someone." Cheers erupted on the bridge, the crew bursting into laughter and applause. They'd done it. Against all odds, they'd turned back the chrono threat with the power of love. Jack turned to Ta, pride and admiration swelling in his chest. "You did it," he said softly, cupping her face in his hands. "You beautiful, brilliant goddess, you saved us all." Tears of joy streamed down Ta's cheeks as she leaned into his touch. "No, Jack, we did it together." And then, in front of the entire bridge crew, she grabbed him by the collar and pulled him into a searing kiss. Jack's mind went blank as he lost himself in her taste, the feel of her body pressed against his. Nothing else mattered, not the Congos, not the mission, not the fate of the galaxy. All that existed was this perfect moment of love and victory, when they finally broke apart, breathless and flushed. The bridge erupted in cheers and applause. Jack grinned sheepishly, running a hand through his tousled hair. All right, show's over. Back to your stations, people. We've still got a planet to save and a peace treaty to negotiate." As he settled back into his chair, Ta perched proudly at his side, Jack couldn't wipe the dopey smile from his face. For the first time in his long and solitary Starfleet career, Captain Jack Steele felt truly whole. He'd found his missing piece in the most unexpected of places, a planet of captivating blue beings with a penchant for indulgence. And you know what? He wouldn't have it any other way. The celebration on Urella was unlike anything Jack had ever experienced. The normally tranquil village had transformed into a vibrant festival of music, dance, and, of course, endless expressions of love. Everywhere he looked, blue-skinned beauties twirled and gyrated, their skirts lifting to reveal tantalizing glimpses of azure skin. At the center of it all was Ta, radiant in a shimmering gown that left little to the imagination. She moved through the crowd like a goddess, bestowing kisses and caresses on her adoring subjects. Jack couldn't take his eyes off her, his heart racing with a blend of love and desire. As the festivities swirled around him, he felt a sense of belonging he had never known before. Ta caught his gaze from across the crowd. Her smile bright and inviting. With a sultry motion, she beckoned him closer, her fingers curling in a way that made his pulse quicken. "Come, my brave captain," she purred, her voice dripping with warmth and mischief. "Let's find a more private place." Jack didn't need to be told twice. Hand in hand, they slipped away from the celebration, retreating to Ta's opulent temple quarters. The air was thick with the intoxicating scent of incense and pheromones, and the plush cushions scattered across the floor practically begged to be used. "So, Ta," Jack said, wrapping his arms around her waist as they sank onto the cushions, "now that we've saved my planet and defeated the Congos, what shall we do with ourselves?" Ta grinned, laughter bubbling up like sweet champagne. "I can think of a few ideas, but are you sure you're ready for the full Steel experience? I've heard it can be quite overwhelming." "Oh, I have no doubt," she replied, her blue skin glistening in the dim light. "But are you prepared for what I have in store?" Jack's breath hitched at the challenge in her eyes. "Darling, you have no idea what you're unleashing," he growled, feeling the primal heat of desire rise within him. "I'm going to make you scream my name to the stars themselves." With a playful gleam in her eyes, Ta pushed him back onto the cushions, straddling his hips, her skirt riding up to reveal the enticing curve of her thighs. The air crackled with electricity as she pressed against him, their bodies fitting together seamlessly. Jack's breath quickened as she leaned down, their mouths mere inches apart. "I hope your legendary stamina extends to the bedroom," she whispered, her fingers deftly unfastening his jacket and shirt, exposing his chest. "Because I intend to ride you like a prized stallion." Without waiting for a response, she captured his lips in a fiery kiss, her tongue dancing with his as if claiming him for herself. Jack's senses ignited, the taste of her sweetness flooding his mouth, fueling his desire. He reveled in the moment, his hands roaming over the silky exp.